Late one night, with the world enveloped in the shroud of darkness and the only illumination coming from the ethereal glow of the moon, I embarked on a solitary drive along the winding back roads that snaked through the heart of the countryside. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and earth, and the only sound was the soft hum of the engine as my car sliced through the silence. Despite the solitude of the hour and the haunting beauty of the moonlit landscape, an inexplicable sense of unease settled over me, like a cold hand gripping my heart. It was as if the very fabric of the night was whispering warnings, urging me to turn back and seek refuge in the safety of my home. But I pressed on, my curiosity outweighing my trepidation as I ventured deeper into the unknown. As I navigated the deserted highway, the dense forest that lined the road seemed to loom ominously in the darkness, casting long, twisting shadows that danced along the edges of my vision. Each turn of the road brought with it a new sense of foreboding, a creeping sensation that crawled up my spine and sent shivers cascading down my back. And then, just as I rounded a particularly sharp bend in the road, something caught my eye. A figure standing at the edge of the forest, bathed in the ghostly light of the moon. My breath caught in my throat, and I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding with fear as I peered through the darkness, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The figure stood perfectly still, its silhouette shrouded in shadow, but there was something unmistakably human about its form. With a sense of growing unease, I called out into the night, my voice echoing through the silent forest like a desperate plea for answers. But there was no response, only the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone on the deserted road, my heart racing with fear and uncertainty. Shaken but determined to press on, I continued my journey, trying to shake off the lingering sense of dread that clung to me like a second skin. But no matter how fast I drove or how far I traveled, I couldn't escape the feeling that something was watching me, lurking in the shadows just beyond the reach of the headlights. And as I drove on into the night, the memory of that fleeting encounter haunted me, filling me with a sense of dread that would linger long after the road had faded into the distance. For I knew deep down that whatever I had seen that night was no mere figment of my imagination, but something far more sinister, something that would haunt me for the rest of my days. As I navigated the desolate roads of the countryside, my fingers clenched tightly around the steering wheel, knuckles white with tension. The darkness outside seemed to press in on me from all sides, enveloping my car in an eerie silence, broken only by the soft hum of the engine. My name is Emily, and I had made the impulsive decision to take a late-night drive in an attempt to clear my head. But as the miles stretched on and the darkness deepened, a sense of unease began to settle over me like a heavy fog. I glanced nervously at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone, or something, lurking in the shadows behind me. But the road stretched out empty and barren, devoid of any signs of life save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. As I rounded a bend in the road, my headlights illuminated a figure standing at the side of the highway, a lone silhouette bathed in the pale glow of the moon. My heart leaped into my throat, and I instinctively slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a screeching halt. For a moment, I sat frozen in my seat, my breath catching in my chest as I stared at the mysterious figure. But as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished back into the darkness, leaving me with nothing but the echo of my racing heartbeat. Shaken, but determined to press on, I shifted the car back into gear and continued down the lonely road, my mind racing with unanswered questions. Who or what had I seen standing by the side of the highway, and why had it disappeared so suddenly? As the miles stretched on and the darkness closed in around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, a silent observer lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. And as I drove deeper into the night, I couldn't shake the growing sense of unease that gnawed at my insides, whispering of unseen dangers lurking just beyond the edge of the road. With each passing mile, the road seemed to grow narrower and more treacherous, the trees looming overhead like silent sentinels guarding some unseen secret. I could feel the weight of their gaze upon me, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers to ensnare me in their grasp. But still, I pressed on, my foot heavy on the accelerator as if trying to outrun the darkness itself. And yet, no matter how fast I drove, it seemed that the shadows were always one step ahead, a palpable presence that clung to me like a shroud. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I saw it, a flicker of movement at the edge of my vision, a fleeting glimpse of something sinister lurking in the darkness. My heart pounded in my chest as I swerved to avoid it, my tires screeching against the asphalt as I fought to regain control of the car. But it was too late. With a sickening lurch, the car careened off the road, tumbling down the embankment in a whirlwind of metal and glass. And as the world spun around me, I couldn't help but wonder, what had I seen lurking in the darkness, and would it be the last thing I ever saw? As the thumping beats of the nightclub faded into the distance, I found myself navigating the intricate maze of city streets, their neon glow casting an eerie ambiance upon the asphalt. It was well past midnight, and the usual hustle and bustle of the city had given way to an unsettling stillness. The streets stretched out before me like winding pathways into the unknown, each turn leading me further away from the familiar comforts of home. As I rounded a corner, the cityscape seemed to shift and warp before my eyes, morphing into a surreal landscape that bore little resemblance to reality. Buildings loomed at impossible angles, their shadows dancing in the dim light of the moon. A sense of unease washed over me as I realized that I had crossed some invisible threshold, venturing into a realm where the boundaries between dream and reality blurred and merged. Trapped in this twisted labyrinth, fear gnawed at my insides, urging me to find a way out before it was too late. But every street I turned down only seemed to lead me deeper into the darkness, the city closing in around me like a suffocating embrace. Desperation clawed at my throat as I searched for any sign of familiarity, my hands trembling as I gripped the steering wheel. But the more I searched, the more the city seemed to resist my efforts, its streets twisting and contorting like the tendrils of some malevolent entity. I pushed down the rising tide of panic, focusing all my energy on finding a way back to the world I knew. And then, just when I thought I couldn't bear it any longer, I caught a glimmer of light in the distance, a beacon of hope cutting through the darkness like a guiding star. With renewed determination, I pressed down on the accelerator, hurtling towards the light with reckless abandon. As I raced towards the familiar skyline, the world around me began to unravel like a tapestry coming undone, the twisted reality melting away like a mirage in the desert. And then, in an instant, I was back in the world I knew, the neon lights of the city casting their familiar glow upon the streets below. Relief flooded through me like a tidal wave as I navigated the now familiar streets, the terror of the night's ordeal slowly fading into the recesses of my mind. But even as I drove towards the safety of home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something truly otherworldly, that in the darkness beyond the city limits, something ancient and malevolent lurked, waiting to ensnare the unwary in its web of shadows.